Welcome to our deep dive into blockchain. You've sent us excerpts from The Truth Machine
Yeah.
by Michael J. Casey and Paul Vigna.
Yeah.
This prefaced the intro and a few chapters.
Great.
We're going to try and cut through the hype around blockchain and see what it could really do for you.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating journey, from this fringe idea to something that's disrupting all kinds of industries.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
In the book starts with this story about the Azraq refugee camp in Jordan,
Right.
and they're using blockchain to distribute food aid.
Uh-huh.
And it's so ingenious.
It is.
I was struck by that.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is that blockchain really thrives in these environments where there's a real lack of traditional trust systems,
Yeah.
Think about it. A refugee camp, there's no banks, government infrastructure is really limited, and establishing trust is just so crucial, and blockchain can kind of provide that missing piece.
Right. So each refugee gets like a digital ID on the blockchain, and when they get food, it's logged on this shared record that can't be tampered with.
Yeah.
So there's no more double dipping. There's no more fraud.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And it's a powerful way to ensure fairness and transparency. And it really directly mirrors how Bitcoin, which was the first major application of blockchain, prevents counterfeiting. It's all about creating this irrefutable record that everyone can agree on, even without like a central authority.
Yeah, and that idea of trust or the lack of trust is something the book connects to the 2008 financial crisis.
Absolutely. The 2008 crisis was, in a lot of ways, just a huge failure of centralized trust.
Right.
We put all of our faith in these institutions believing that their records were accurate, But blockchain offers us this really compelling alternative, a system where trust isn't blind, but it's built on this foundation of transparency and verification.
So is blockchain the answer then to restoring trust in this digital world?
It definitely has the potential. The Truth Machine argues that blockchain as a technology can underpin this new era of transparency. The book also uses this really interesting analogy. It compares blockchain to the emergence of double-entry bookkeeping centuries ago.
Yes, centuries ago. Double-entry bookkeeping revolutionized commerce. It created this system for tracking transactions that everyone could trust, and it fueled global trade. And the rise of modern capitalism and blockchain takes that concept and puts it into the digital age.
Wow.
Yeah, you can imagine that same level of accountability and transparency, but on this global scale and in real time.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So when we talk about blockchain, obviously we have to talk about Bitcoin.
Right.
It's the most well-known example. But I have to admit, the details of Bitcoin mining are still kind of murky to me.
Yeah, it can seem complex, but the core idea is actually fairly straightforward.
Okay.
Bitcoin mining is essentially a competition to solve these really complex mathematical problems.
Okay.
The winner of this competition gets to add a block of transactions to the blockchain, and they get rewarded with Bitcoin.
So it's like this giant puzzle that secures the network. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
Okay.
And this process is called proof of work. And it's what makes Bitcoin incredibly secure and really difficult to manipulate. It's like this decentralized security force that's constantly working to ensure the integrity of the whole system, and that security is ultimately what benefits you as a user.
Right. And the book points out, though, that Bitcoin has its limitations.
It does. Yeah. Scalability is a big challenge.
Yeah.
The Bitcoin network can only process a limited number of transactions per second. And then there's the issue of transaction fees, which can fluctuate and sometimes make small transactions not very practical.
Right. And this is where we get that whole debate between the big blockers and the small blockers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
People who want to increase the block size so you can handle more transactions versus the people who say, no, we have to prioritize security and decentralization.
Yeah, it's this fundamental tension within the Bitcoin community. How do you scale the system while preserving its core values? And this really highlights the complexities of balancing growth and maintaining the integrity of a decentralized system.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we've covered blockchain in a general sense, and its first big application, Bitcoin.
Right.
But there's this whole world beyond Bitcoin that the book dives into, right?
Yeah, there's this whole ecosystem of blockchain applications, and one that's really interesting is Ethereum.
Okay.
And they use smart contracts to automate agreements.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Ethereum and smart contracts.
Okay.
What are those all about?
Think of Ethereum as a platform for building decentralized applications, or dApps, like
Okay.
this giant global computer that anyone can use.
Okay.
Now, smart contracts are basically self-executing agreements that are written into code. So imagine a vending machine that dispenses a snack the moment your payment is verified on the blockchain.
Okay.
That's a simple analogy for a smart contract in action.
That's a really clear way to visualize it.
Right. So instead of relying on a third party to mediate these agreements,
Yeah.
the blockchain itself handles the execution.
Exactly. Smart contracts eliminate the need for intermediaries, which can save time, reduce costs, and increase transparency. They can revolutionize everything from supply chain management to real estate transactions.
This sounds like it opens up a whole world of possibilities.
It does.
And speaking of new possibilities, the book dives into this concept of a token economy and the whole ICO boom.
Ah, yes, the ICO frenzy. It really captured everyone's imagination,
Yeah.
investors and entrepreneurs alike.
Yeah.
So essentially, tokens are these digital assets that represent various forms of value beyond just currency.
Yeah.
They can represent anything from loyalty points to voting rights to fractional ownership of a physical asset.
Wow.
Yeah.
The book gives the example of Brave Software and their basic attention token, or BAT.
Right. The BAT is an interesting case study. It's designed to reward users for their attention and disrupt that traditional online advertising model.
You see, instead of your data being harvested and monetized without your consent, the BAT allows you to choose whether to see ads and get compensated for your attention.
So it puts the power back in the hands of the user.
That's the idea.
Huh.
It's a fascinating example of how blockchain and tokens can incentivize positive behavior and reshape entire industries.
Yeah, but the book doesn't shy away from the risks
No, it doesn't.
associated with this new token economy.
The ICO boom definitely had its share of challenges.
Right.
There was a lot of speculation, hype, and unfortunately some outright scams.
Yeah.
The regulatory landscape was also uncertain, with governments trying to figure out how to classify these new digital assets.
So it was kind of like the Wild West of finance.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Full of potential, but also a lot of risk.
A lot of risks, but the underlying technology and the potential for disruption remained undeniable.
So it's clear that blockchain has this potential to disrupt a lot of industries, but so far we've mainly talked about its impact on finance.
Right.
The book dives into real-world applications that go way beyond that, right?
Absolutely. Blockchain is being used in innovative ways across a wide range of sectors, from tracking the origin of your food to verifying the authenticity of diamonds.
Wow.
The applications are incredibly diverse, and that's what we'll explore next.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the foundations of blockchain and its first big application, Bitcoin, but the truth machine takes us on this journey through these real-world applications.
Right.
That could change how we interact with, like, everything around us.
Yeah, it really is a diverse landscape.
Yeah.
Blockchain is being used in ways that we might not even imagine.
For example, the book talks about Walmart using blockchain to track food provenance.
Yeah. So imagine you're at Walmart, you're picking out some mangoes for a smoothie.
Okay.
You scan a QR code and you can trace those mangoes all the way back to the farm where they were grown. You would know exactly where they came from when they were harvested, even details about the farming practices that were used.
So it's not just about knowing where your food comes from, it's about the bigger picture.
Exactly. Blockchain brings transparency and accountability to the entire food supply chain.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is a game changer, especially when you think about issues like food safety and contamination outbreaks. If there's a problem, imagine being able to instantly trace it back to its source.
Right.
This can save lives, reduce waste, and increase consumer confidence.
That's a powerful example, and the book mentions another one that really stuck with me, Everledger, a company using blockchain to track diamonds.
Yeah, Everledger is tackling a really serious issue, the trade of conflict diamonds, or blood diamonds.
Right.
They create this digital record for each diamond on the blockchain, tracing its journey from the mine to the jewelry store.
So buyers can know that they're not supporting unethical practices.
That's right. Blockchain provides this immutable record verifying the origin and the ethical sourcing of these precious stones. And this transparency really empowers consumers and helps disrupt an industry that's often plagued by human rights abuses.
It's incredible how this technology can be used for, like, social good
Yeah,
and to address ethical issues.
absolutely.
What other applications does the book highlight?
Well, one that really stands out is in manufacturing,
Okay.
specifically with 3D printing.
Okay.
So Moog Inc., a company that specializes in precision parts.
Uh-huh.
They're using blockchain to verify the integrity of 3D printed components.
And why is that so important?
Well, think about the industries where 3D printing is revolutionizing manufacturing. We're talking aerospace, defense, healthcare.
Right.
In these sectors, the authenticity and reliability of parts is critical.
Uh-huh.
A faulty part in an aircraft or a medical implant,
Yeah.
that can have catastrophic consequences.
So blockchain is adding this layer of trust
Yeah.
and accountability to a process that's changing how we make essential products.
Exactly. With blockchain, each step of the 3D printing process from the design files to the materials used is recorded and verified on the blockchain.
Wow.
This creates an auditable trail that guarantees the quality and origin of each part, reducing the risk of counterfeits or substandard components getting into the supply chain.
These real-world examples really highlight the breadth of blockchain's potential. It's clear that this is not just about finance anymore.
No, it's not, and the book goes even further,
Nope.
exploring how blockchain could reshape energy management and the Internet of Things, or the IoT.
Okay, those are two areas I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
How does blockchain fit into those landscapes?
Well, imagine a world where your home is powered by this decentralized energy grid.
Okay.
Your solar panels generate electricity. Any excess is automatically sold to your neighbors.
Okay.
On this blockchain-powered platform, your smart appliances communicate and manage energy consumption, optimizing efficiency and reducing costs.
So we're talking about a future where we have more control over our energy
Exactly.
and where renewable energy sources are like seamlessly integrated into the grid.
Exactly. Blockchain facilitates peer-to-peer energy trading, cutting out the middleman and empowering individuals.
Wow.
It's a really fascinating vision of a more sustainable and resilient energy future.
It's clear from these examples that blockchain is already making an impact.
Yeah.
But the Truth Machine acknowledges that it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
It's not all smooth sailing.
There are challenges.
Right.
And addressing these challenges is really crucial. One of the biggest hurdles, as we talked about with Bitcoin, is scalability.
Uh-huh.
Processing huge volumes of transactions quickly and efficiently, that remains a key area of focus for blockchain developers.
What are some of the approaches being explored?
Well, there's a lot of exciting work being done.
Okay.
One solution is the Lightning Network,
Okay.
which aims to create a secondary layer on top of the blockchain to handle smaller, more frequent transactions. It's like building express lanes on a highway to reduce congestion and speed up the flow of traffic.
So it's about finding creative solutions to make the technology better.
Exactly.
What other challenges does the book highlight?
Regulation is a big one.
Uh-huh.
The regulatory landscape for blockchain is still evolving. Governments around the world are trying to figure out how to classify cryptocurrencies, oversee ICOs, protect investors without stifling innovation.
Right. It's tough.
It's a tough balancing act.
It's not just about the technology and the regulations, though, right? There are these broader societal implications to think about.
Absolutely. The Truth Machine delves into the potential impact of blockchain on jobs privacy, even our relationship with institutions. As blockchain automates processes and disintermediates industries, it raises these big questions about the future of work.
So while some jobs may become obsolete, new opportunities will emerge.
That's very likely the case. Blockchain will demand new skill sets in areas like software development, cryptography, data analysis.
Right.
It's about adapting to this changing technological landscape and embracing the opportunities that it presents.
And then there's the question of privacy in this decentralized world.
Right.
How do we make sure that our data is protected,
Yeah.
even as these transactions become more transparent?
That's a really crucial consideration. The book explores the use of cryptographic techniques like zero-knowledge proofs that allow you to prove certain attributes without revealing unnecessary personal information. So, for example, you could prove that you're over 18 without revealing your exact birth date.
It sounds like achieving the full potential of blockchain requires not just the technology, but also thinking carefully about its impact on society.
That's exactly the point. The Truth Machine drives home. Blockchain is this powerful tool, but it's not a magic bullet.
Right.
We need to be thoughtful about how we implement and govern this technology to ensure it benefits society as a whole.
This has been so insightful. We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
from how blockchain works to its potential to change how we buy groceries to how we power our homes. But I'm really intrigued by the book's exploration of how blockchain could impact governance and citizenship.
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
We're talking about the potential to reshape our relationship with institutions, empower individuals, and even change how we vote and engage in civic life.
We've talked about how blockchain can revolutionize industries from finance to food supply chains, but now the truth machine takes us into this whole other realm.
Yeah.
Governance and citizenship, how blockchain could change the very fabric of our societies. And this is where it gets really thought-provoking.
Yeah, it's about reimagining our relationship with institutions and empowering individuals in ways that we've never really seen before.
The book starts with this really compelling example, land ownership. And it talks about how blockchain can be used to create these secure, transparent records of land titles.
Right. Think about the implications, especially in developing countries where land ownership is often really murky and there's a lot of corruption.
Yeah.
Blockchain brings clarity and security to the process. It makes it virtually impossible to forge or manipulate land titles.
So no more disputes over who owns what, no more shady land grabs.
Exactly. It levels the playing field, it protects individual property rights, and it can even unlock economic potential by giving people true ownership and control over their assets.
It's amazing to think about how this technology can address these fundamental issues.
Yeah.
What other aspects of governance does the book explore?
One that really stands out is voting.
Okay.
The Truth Machine highlights Estonia's experimentation with blockchain-based e-voting systems. Imagine being able to cast your vote securely from your phone, knowing that it's tamper-proof and that it can be independently audited.
That sounds like a huge leap forward in terms of election security and transparency. Could this really be scaled to work for national elections, though, in larger countries?
That's one of the key questions, of course.
Yeah.
Implementation on a national scale brings its own set of challenges, both technical and logistical, but the potential is undeniable. Blockchain voting could increase participation, reduce the risk of fraud, and really restore trust in democratic processes.
It's exciting to think how this could change how we engage in civic life. But the book acknowledges that there are these hurdles to overcome.
Of course, and it's important to be realistic. Implementing these systems on a large scale requires significant investment, technical expertise, buy-in from both governments and citizens. And there's also the question of digital access, making sure that everyone has the means to participate in a blockchain-powered society.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the social and infrastructure challenges, too.
Exactly. And then there are the privacy considerations.
Yeah.
While transparency is this core feature of blockchain, ensuring data privacy within these systems is crucial.
Right.
The book explores how techniques like zero-knowledge proofs
Right.
can be used to balance transparency and privacy.
Can you give us an example of how that might work?
Sure. Let's say you need to prove that you're old enough to vote, but you don't want to reveal your exact birth date.
Okay.
A zero-knowledge proof would allow you to verify your age without disclosing that specific information.
So it's about giving individuals more control over their data,
Yeah.
even in a system that's designed for transparency.
That's the idea. Blockchain empowers us with these tools for self-sovereignty, but it's up to us to use them thoughtfully and responsibly.
This has been such an incredible deep dive into the world of blockchain.
Yeah.
From its technical foundations to its potential to reshape industries,
Right.
and even our societies, the truth machine leaves us with a lot to think about.
It does. And the book concludes with this really powerful question.
Okay.
If blockchain technology is the truth machine, what truths will we choose to record, and how will those choices shape our future?
That really gets to the heart of it.
Yeah.
It's not just about the technology itself, it's about the values that we embed in it
Right.
and the choices we make about how we want to use it.
It's a reminder that blockchain is not a panacea. It's a tool with immense potential, but ultimately it's up to us to determine whether it's used for good or ill. The decisions that we make today will have this profound impact on the shape of our decentralized future.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's your final takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I would encourage everyone to approach blockchain with this sense of informed curiosity.
Right.
Educate yourselves, explore the technology, and engage in these critical discussions about its implications, because blockchain is here to stay, and it has the potential to create this more transparent, equitable, and empowered world. But that future is not predetermined. It's up to all of us to shape it.
That's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for guiding us through this fascinating exploration of blockchain and all of its possibilities. And to our listener, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.